more on China and Russia diplomacy. We're joined now by Einar Tangen. He's a senior fellow at Tahi Institute and chairman of Asia Narratives. Good to see you again. Now, Wang said on Monday that China and Russia should work together on the formation of a multipolar world. Is the UN changing to adapt this idea of this multipolar world, and have the days of Washington's dominance gone?
Well, no. I mean, the United States is still a very dominant power, but as we saw with BRICS Plus, the G20, it is no longer the only power. It is a multipolar world, as you pointed out, Sally. The question is, how does this work? The old way was very simple. The U.S. had almost complete sway, and if you didn't go along with it, there could be repercussions economically, militarily, etc. Now you have whole groups of countries who have to get to know each other, and I mean in depth, so they understand their different viewpoints, and they have to sort of forge some sort of harmony out of all of these very different ideas. I guess it's kind of like the Treaty of Westphalia, this understanding that although there are differences, we can get along.
And, you know, in reference to all these leaders meeting this week in New York, of course, we're seeing China's economic rise as well as its global partnerships via the Belt and Road Initiative and the G77 reflected increasingly, you know, in engagements with the UN and have more influence at a UN level. Does the UN need China more now?
Well, it's not just need China. You know, there are reforms that are necessary. I mean, although, you know, many of the permanent members on the Security Council might not agree, the idea that there are countries that are more equal than other countries does not play well when you start talking to the Global South, even to Central Asia. They want something that's a little bit more about collaboration, cooperation, consensus, a little less about somebody else setting the world order. This is going to be very, very difficult. No one wants to give up their powers. But unless the UN does this, as Gutierrez has pointed out, it's going to become less relevant.
Do you think the talks between Wang and US Security Advisor Jake Sullivan in Malta over the weekend have paved the way for leaders Joe Biden and Xi Jinping to meet in November for APEC?
Yeah, I would only be guessing at this point. I hope there will be meetings, but the question is, what's on the agenda? If this is just another attempt to, you know, strike out at China and to, you know, in essence, make Xi Jinping look bad at some international meeting, it just doesn't work. There has to be an agenda that has some sort of meaning, some clear way forward. And this has been the difficulties. There's been a lot of high-level meetings, people coming to Beijing. They say we want to engage, but then the next day there are ships, warships going through the Taiwan Straits or in the South China Seas, or there are more sanctions being leveled against Chinese companies or restrictions on investment in China itself. So, I mean, it always seems to be one step forward, two steps back. The question is, can they agree on an agenda that makes sense for both sides? And during an election year, very, very difficult to see if Biden is at all, you know, nice. The Republicans will scream that he's, you know, giving in to China. So, you know, diplomacy is about compromise. And right now, not many people in the U.S. are interested in compromise.
All right. Einar Tangen, Senior Fellow at the Tahi Institute and Chairman of Asia Narratives. Thank you.